welcome you to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. We do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And today we're going to be talking with Tracey Denlinger of One Call for All, which is in full swing. In fact, one of the biggest times of the year is about to be upon us with the end of the year. And we'll talk more about that. But I want to first thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring Something to Talk About. They have a lovely campus up on Rolling Bay, and I invite you to go check it out. You can call them at 206-594-1010 or check out their website at fieldstonecommunities.com and find out about assisted independent living and vibrant memory care. Also, we would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the people of the Clear Salt Water, the Suquamish tribe, who have been living here since time immemorial. We honor them and are learning from their stewardship of these lands and waters. Tracey, thank you very much for making time to drop by today. I know this is not a calm time in your year.
No, it's not that it's stressful though. I don't know what the opposite of calm. Exciting. It's an exciting time of year. And I am definitely, this is the last couple of months and the coming months that come, the next 2 months are just like my favorite. I just wake up every day with enthusiasm and excitement and love being super busy, because what that means is that we're raising a lot of money for a lot of really good causes. So including the senior center, of course.
You've had a well, I remember when we first started to participate as the senior center in earnest in 2017 or 2018. It was a big deal when we crossed, I think, $1 million. And we've had some great years as a community fundraising through One Call for All, haven't we?
Yeah. And the senior center has been, I think, prior to your hiring, Reed, they did okay. We're able to raise a bunch of money every year, but with the combination of what we do, the tradition of giving, the philanthropic community on the island, plus with the, enthusiasm that you've rallied, and all of the great programming that has happened at the senior center, I think has inspired a lot more people to give. And so we're raising more money overall, but also raising a lot more money for the senior center specifically. I went to the Oatmeal Club last week. Do you guys know about the Oatmeal Club?
Oh, yeah.
So I went last week and I made a PowerPoint. So I don't know if you would be interested in, I would be able to have this rather than be a casual conversation. I could kind of give you my whole spiel if you're interested.
Well, sure. Let's get started. Let's see what you got.
Okay. So anyway, you may have heard from me multiple times about this phrase, what matters most to you. So we used to have a tagline of, we live here, we give here, which is just sort of a statement of fact. Yes, we do live here and we do give here. However, quite a few years ago, I had a volunteer, or actually a paid staff person helping with data entry, and she worked here late at night because she was a farmer during the day. And I was driving to TNC and I saw her car. So I thought I'd pop in and say hello and cheer her on and thank her for her work in entering all of the donor information. And she had tears in her eyes. And I said to her at the time, I was like, oh, I know which one you're filling out. I know exactly which donation form, because it was this older gentleman who gave to 65 different organizations in amounts ranging from $500 to $4, or from $4 to $500. And it was filled out in pencil. There was a lot of erasing, a lot of little arithmetic on the sidelines, and, probably took her over an hour to enter into our database. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. This is so overwhelming, I'm sure. And she said, I am just so touched by this person sharing exactly what matters most to them on this piece of paper. And for those of you, I don't think there's anybody on this call that doesn't know One Call for All, but this donation form is what you typically fill out. And this has basically a, list of all the causes that might be important to you. And each donor's completion of this form is sort of a window into their soul and their heart and what matters most to them. So we changed our tagline that year to what matters most to you, because One Call for All is your opportunity to share, to support the causes that matter most to you. And for some people, you know, it's a cause that is important to you because it matters to you because you participate. It also might be something that has touched your life in the past. You know, there's people of all ages who give to Bainbridge Youth Services or Helpline because they've been there and they've you know, received services or have a loved one. And for a lot of other organizations, what matters most to you is something that you just really, you don't want that need to go unmet in our community. Also, what's just a fun little story is one of the senior center donors a couple of years ago. She's actually a friend of mine, but a donor gave a very major gift. She had twin children, and they sat down as a family, the three of them. She divided up this very major gift among the three of them, and each kid got to pick the same amount as the mom. So mom and two kids, they each got to pick. And the senior center received $1,500 from this young man. So it was just such a sweet, sweet story to be able to, like, such a privilege for me to be able to look at that list and see, okay, this is what each kid wanted, and this is what the mom wanted. And the mom might have wanted some of the same stuff, but she really gave them the opportunity to say what matters most to them. And anyway, I just talked to her the other day, Reed. She said you guys brought him cookies, which was really sweet.
Yeah.
So that was a very long, I'm not going to spend that much time on all 19 of my slides. Sorry about that.
No, and it was a lovely slide to look at while you were talking.
Good, good. Actually, what's kind of fun about that slide too is that I got it from Buy Nothing Bainbridge, which is a, you know, international effort that was founded on Bainbridge Island. And earlier this fall, I went on the app and I said, hey, does anybody have a good picture of One Call for, you know, of sort of an iconic Bainbridge scene that I could use? And Liesl, who is she's the founder of Buy Nothing, and she's also a documentary filmmaker and also a great photographer. She took that photo and she donated it. So we're happy to have a new masthead photo. So Bainbridge Foundation was formed in 1960. This is a picture of Winslow Way in 1960. So quite a few years ago, 64 almost. A forward-thinking group of committed and loving citizens got together and formed this organization. The legend is that there was an older lady who was just kept trying to rally her neighbors. You know, we should give to this cause now. Everybody, come on, join me in giving to this cause. And a group was formed to try to make one call for all, meaning one solicitation for all of the causes that someone might want to donate to. So between 1960 and 2007, it was an all-volunteer effort. Board members were responsible for almost all of the work. I think they did hire some contract data entry people once we started using computers. I actually, since you're here in my, since I'm here in my office, I can show you, I have some old ledgers here that are just sort of these wonderful historical artifacts they even have like the handwritten, they've got the adding machine tape and the handwritten bank entries with all the donations and the distributions. Pretty cool to see. Obviously now it's all...
It reminds me of my grandmother's records of her little department store in 1960.
Yeah, this was in the 70s. It really looks ancient, and I think the 70s were just a few years ago. But yeah, and actually the handwriting is very very specific to that age, I've noticed. I'll bet it probably looks a little bit like your grandmother's handwriting in that. So in 2007, One Call for All hired an executive director. His name was Bob Lins, and he worked part-time. These are just some random facts throughout the years since they hired a half-time executive director. The campaign raised $880,000 for 87 partner agencies back in 2017. We hit $1 million for the first time in 2012. That Reed, when you were talking about the first time hitting $1 million, the first time we hit $1 million in the fall before December 31st was actually 2015. And obviously we far exceeded that. The highest we've raised is 2.5 million in 1 year. So we changed the name to One Call for All officially. We used to be called the Bainbridge Foundation, and I'm sure many of you know the Bainbridge Community Foundation also exists on Bainbridge Island, and they were formed around 2002, formed with a gift from One Call for All. This is prior to us having an executive director. So we had received some landlocked real estate and some original stock certificates and hung on to them for many years, but another group of awesome visionary citizens of Bainbridge decided to create a community foundation in 2002. So that's how that was formed. We changed our name. We had been using the name One Call for All for many years, but we changed our name officially with the IRS in 2016. In 2020, our campaign raised over $2 million for the very first time. And that was 125 agencies. And then in 2023, we raised over $1 million this year as of November 30th, which was Giving Tuesday. So that was kind of a fun thing to have us hit that milestone on Giving Tuesday. Usually before I start calculating where we're at in the campaign, it's just like, whoops, there it goes. We hit it. So One Call for All supports the nonprofit sector. I always like to say that I am the development director for 120 different organizations. I can't say that about the senior center anymore, since you all have a development director now who's quite competent, but I'm here to be Reed's and Mimi's supporter, best friend, cheerleader, and also administrative assistant as I process all of these gifts and acknowledge them all. So we support the nonprofit sector by doing the stuff that isn't really that important to your mission. So we really respect that there are lots of amazing folks that work for and volunteer for organizations throughout our community, and they do best what they've chosen to do. So you folks at the senior center do an amazing job of supporting other seniors and activities and having a thriving community of support. And I'm not good at that. So what I'm good at is, sending out letters and writing acknowledgement letters and working on a website and doing marketing and things like that. Likewise.
So I think volunteer caregivers and Vitalize Kits app and maybe Weave. I don't know in these pictures.
That photo is actually, that's really good that you spotted that. It's actually spacecraft from 2014 or 2015, but it's the same space as Weave. And then over on the right, that squirrel is a photo that was taken by the Land Trust. So all of these, folks who conserve land, care for our intellectually disabled neighbors, or this is Bainbridge Island, BCNS, Bainbridge Community Nursery School, that they do their best work when they're actually caring for kids or disabled folks or homebound folks with IVC, or creating art or producing plays or protecting the environment. We do all the other stuff so that they can do that. They can spend more time, more resources doing that. So that's how we support the nonprofit sector. And in turn, when we support the nonprofit sector, One Call for All really has a great impact, of course, on our community as a whole. And I think if you take a walk through Winslow, or pretty much anything that you think of that is a great something to be proud of in our community, there is a nonprofit sector behind that. And so these are, this is the historical museum. You'll see that that's on the Virginia cruise.
Virginia 5.
Virginia 5. I was going to say Virginia V because I see it written all the time. Yeah. The Peacock Family Services, the 4-H Club is a former organization, Zero Waste Bainbridge through Sustainable Bainbridge. All of these things that make our island really special, a lot of those aspects are supported by the nonprofit community, and we as One Call for All help raise money to help keep those organizations thriving and making a difference in our community.
Who are the ones on the bottom right?
Oh, that was at the stuffing party. So these
gotcha.
Yeah. So this the younger woman was from Bainbridge Youth Services, and the taller lady was from Bainbridge Island Rowing. And then how One Call for All supports donors. So we help the community, we help these organizations, but we also help you, our organization, our donors, because we allow you to make one gift and support all of the causes that matter most to you. And I really like this quote from a few years ago that was on the back of our red envelope materials. It says, "We realize this is one of the best ways to become a true islander." So I really think of that as being one of the things that is unique and special about Bainbridge Island. If you want to get involved at Bainbridge Island, if you're new to this community, if you want to really be a true islander, the way you can do that is by giving to what matters most to you.
Yeah.
Oops.
And taking a walk through that list gives you a overview of all the things that are going on here. It's a great way to find out about organizations too.
Yeah, for volunteering, for getting involved, for actually participating. So this year we have sent out quite a few, but in the coming year for our current red envelope, we will be sending out, all the real estate agents will have a red envelope to give to every new resident so that they can say, it specifically has a letter that says, welcome to Bainbridge Island. One of the things that's very unique about this place is that we have this organization that supports all these nonprofits, but peruse this list and find your new place of belonging. You can find a pet, you can find a preschool for your children, you can find out about the senior center. Actually, the senior center is mentioned in the letter that we have, inviting folks to just learn more about the nonprofit world, so that they can participate, so they can benefit from it, so that they can also volunteer. I know everyone who hangs out at the senior center, you have just some incredibly accomplished and brilliant people that might be looking for a way to give back to the community, even if they're new to the community. And I can think of some names off the top of my head of folks who came to the senior center and they were like, well, I have a PhD in this, or I was an expert in strategic planning. And, they have a wealth of experience that can support either the senior center or a variety of other causes. So it's a good place to kind of start to just learn more about the community and find a way to fit in.
Tracey, the whole idea of you putting that in your letter is wonderful. Speaking from the marketing committee.
Okay.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, because actually, obviously, like a lot of organizations, it's not just that you need money. That's not the only way to participate in the senior center, is also to get involved and benefit from it. So how donors give, I think you guys are all pretty familiar with how donors give. So we have a red envelope. It comes out into your mailbox every fall. You can this is an example. This is this most recent one, inviting you to give. We have some quotes from some important people. This is an example of the donation form that I held up a second ago. This is, one way to give is to give one donation to all the causes that matter most to you. And I always hope and always encourage folks when they're looking at this list to give to all of the ones that they care about, but then maybe think about picking a new one. We always have new organizations on the list every year, and we try to highlight them in the descriptions, so folks can be introduced to new organizations that might come to be a favorite in the future. We had a campaign a few years back called Each One Plus One, where we were just really wanting to, the average donor gives to 7 to 9 organizations. We were hoping that the average number would be 10 or 11 instead, so that folks would be encouraged to give to Each One Plus One. And I think a lot of folks have their favorites that they give to every single year. And I'm always very gratified when I see one of the new organizations added to their list.
Well, I can certainly appreciate the gentleman who was having a hard time trying to figure out if he was going to divide his money and name every organization that he sees that has value. It is a daunting little prospect when you look at this list to say, because I also think, there's a lot of value in concentrating your gift a little bit too. So it's a balance, but as you said, it's a testament to all the things that all the nonprofits that help hold us up.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting too that I always get little notes on this donation form. HRB has a breakfast in the fall often, and so I often will get someone will fill out their form and they will give to the library and the senior center and the historical museum and Bainbridge Youth Services, and then they'll put a little note next to HRB saying, I gave at the breakfast. You know, it's okay to me. I mean, you can give to whoever you want. And I completely have utter equanimity of when it comes to these organizations, but sometimes
Yeah,
people
we
just want to, they want to
we
know,
ju-
they want me
they
to
want
know.
you to know, right? Well, and I
Yeah.
have the same thing happen. So we just had renewals of memberships, and we have a note on there that says, "Would you like to add a donation?" And I get a lot of notes that say, "I did on one call."
Good,
You'll
good.
get it,
Yeah.
you'll get it, but it's at one call for all.
Yeah. That's great. So a one-time check is a very common way to give. We get literally thousands of checks every year, and that's what that are to multiple organizations. We also have the opportunity to give through your IRA if you're over a certain age and you have a required minimum distribution. You can make a portion or all of that as a QCD or qualified charitable contribution or distribution. And you would fill out this form to do that. And then you would check a box here where it says, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but where it says check will be forthcoming. And then I match up your wishes with the donation when the check comes from the bank. And that is increasingly very, very popular. I just did a little what had been entered into our database, which is only about half of what's come in so far. We already had $111,000 in donations through qualified charitable distributions. And again, this is one way that One Call for All serves the donor, because instead of calling your advisor or having them send, if you've got 15 organizations that you'd like to divide up your qualified charitable distribution, you can just send one to One Call for All, and then we'll take care of distributing it. Obviously, every single donation, 100% of each donation goes directly to the causes that you choose. And anyway, that is very increasingly common. We also accept gifts of appreciated assets. So someone can electronically transfer a gift of stock, and then we can just instantly sell it and distribute it as cash to all of these organizations, which is nice. You know, obviously the senior center has a staff and they could handle that themselves. However, there's many of our organizations, about 1/3 of them have no staff at all. And so they, in order to receive a gift of appreciated assets, they'd have to open a brokerage account. They would have to know how to accept and liquidate and create a policy around that, and acknowledge it appropriately. If you do it through One Call for All, we'll get the money straight to the organizations, and they don't need to deal with any of that. We also have quite a few donors that want to give one big gift to one organization. And when that happens, we are able to distribute that immediately. So typically the payout for organizations is in January and August. But if there's a specific large gift that comes in, we'll get it right out. Like I could even do it the same day in some instances where I just bring a check over to the recipient organization. So anyway, we try to make it easy for you. Obviously, we also accept credit card gifts. And as many senior center participants know, we accept recurring donations. And there's a couple reasons why that is really helpful to the senior center in particular. One is that they get more money because people tend to give larger gift through a credit card than they would if they were writing a check. However, we also have we pay all of the credit card fees. So if you donate $20 by credit card, $20 goes to the senior center. In addition to that, every donation earns the senior center a share in our community fund. And last year it was $4.51. So if you gave $20 a month, your organization, the senior center, would earn 12 shares in the community fund. $4.51 was last year. I also just got a donation from a wonderfully generous donor who decided to give all of her donation this year to the community fund. It was $20,000. So in the past, the $20,000 in the past, it's been about $50,000 that we're then distributing it. We have 14,000 donations. I think 11,000 of those donations or designations are $20 or more. So we're going to have, I think, more to spread out this coming year. So if you don't already, if you just do $20 a month as a recurring donation, you are going to help the senior center a lot, in addition to the actual money that you're donating. So I already talked about those. We also accept donations of donor advised funds. And again, they can just do one distribution and then we'll divvy it up among however they'd like. This is just me shamelessly bragging, but this organization is unbelievable in our impact. So this chart is showing the size of our operations budget as compared to the number of dollars that we have distributed out in our community that our campaign has raised. So back in 2009, which was the first year we had an executive director, or actually it was the third year we had an executive director, our annual operating budget was $90,000. And with that $90,000, we raised under $1 million. Currently, our operating budget is only a little bit higher than that. Some years under my leadership, I have been here since 2015, and some of my years, it has been under $90,000 per year. And with that $90,000, I think we do a pretty good job of making a very, very serious impact on our nonprofit sector and on our community as a whole. So as that number of dollars raised goes up and up, our annual operating budget stays the same. And we incur increased costs. I still am only half-time executive director. And we do have a couple of contract staff, a data entry person who works at the most 10 hours a week, but most of the year only 5 hours a month, and a bookkeeper who comes in for 2 to 5 hours a month to help sort things out. But the rest is handled by me with only in 20 hours a week. And our credit card fees are gigantic. We didn't even accept credit cards back in 2007. And in 2021, we spent almost $30,000 on credit card fees. So that was $30,000 of about, I think, $109,000 operating budget. So we're doing a lot more with less. And that is something we always want to continue to do, because we don't want to take any money away from our community. We want to have as deep as impact as possible and be able to leverage.
Yeah, what you're actually doing is giving money, because we would have to spend that money as well. And you're just helping to grease the skids and make it more efficient. So that's amazing that you have been able to keep costs that low. And I applaud you on that. Running an organization, it's not easy to keep costs low. And of course, in our case, some of those operating expenses are the actual program that we're providing. But yeah. That's applause, cheers.
Thanks. Thank you. And it's really, I'll accept your applause, but it's really these visionary individuals that thought this up in 1960. I think if somebody came up with the idea right now, it would be we'd be hard pressed to create a tradition that is so deep and so successful. It was really, I think, some immense forethought is the reason why we're able to do that. But I know as the executive director, I will never start charging for credit card fees. We'll be able to raise money to cover our operations in a different way, if it ever comes to that. We also, this is kind of funny because I think a lot of folks think like, oh, Tracey just wants more money to come through One Call for All, so she gets credit for it. Or, there's, I think, a perception that One Call for All somehow benefits from raising more money. All we benefit from is being able to show people this chart and brag about it. It actually costs us money to raise money for you, but that is our program. You have programs and services that you actually provide. Our program is just this. It is just raising money. So we definitely don't mind that we have such a what I think is a really easy job. But again, I think a lot of folks that work in the nonprofit community, that volunteer for the nonprofit community, they have greater skills and more important ways that they can spend their time and their resources actually providing services, and they don't find this fundraising part that fun. I actually like it. So anyway, I'll keep doing it. The other thing that we do is create a culture of philanthropy. So we really try to nurture this. I'm not sure if any of you have seen these buttons around town, but we have these buttons that say, ask me where I give. Oh, yep. You should ask Reed where he gives. Pretty sure I know. That we want folks to have a conversation about what matters most to them. So this isn't say, please ask me to ask you to give money to me. I think a lot of folks that get involved in a nonprofit, what you want to do is you want the organization to thrive, but you're not necessarily comfortable with going and sitting down with your friends and family and saying, will you please donate to this cause? I care about it, and I wish you would too. We're just trying to elevate this kind of conversation. So we want folks to be able to be comfortable talking about what matters most to them. And that is a much easier conversation than asking for money. If someone approaches you and you're wearing one of these pins and they say, ask me where I give, well, I give the senior center, and here's why. This is what's been going on. This is what we're doing. This is what we're planning. This is how I've benefited. That's kind of easy because that's speaking from your heart. That's speaking from your own experience. And you never have to bring up the topic of please give money, because you're only talking about what matters to you and why you give. And also, I always tell this joke over and over again, but I wear this pin all the time during the active campaign season, and I am always flustered whenever somebody asks me where I give, because I have 120 organizations. I love them all equally, just like my children.
So if you would like one of these, I have a few at the office. Just stop me and ask me where my button is.
And
Okay,
this
I
was
want
just
one of those tomorrow, Reed, when I come over.
Okay, 100%.
Thank you.
that is the percentage of the donations that we give to the organizations, 100%. That'll never change. That will absolutely never change. We will never go the way of any of those, United Way or for-profit organizations that take a fee out of a donation. The organizations earn it and they receive it. We pay all the fees, we pay all the costs, the brokerage fees, the cost of the campaign, the postage, the acknowledgement, the data entry. We host our website. We will always cover that for our donors and for our organizations. Somebody inevitably asks, how does One Call for All pay for all of that? It's a tiny, tiny budget, but here's how we pay for it. A lot of times, about 50% of the time, actually, when someone is making a gift to everything that matters most to them, guess what also matters most to them? One Call for All. So they'll add to their gift. So we get a ton of checks that are for weird amounts, like $610 is a really common donation, and that $10 is to One Call for All. So we get a lot of tinier gifts. We don't get as much from the community fund as some of the other organizations do, because people will give maybe 20 to each organization that they care about, and then 5 to One Call for All, and we're pretty cool with that. We are also pretty cool with people who give nothing to One Call for All, because this is what we do. This is our mission, and we also invite our board of directors to give. They all give pretty generously, and we have a few corporate sponsors who also give, and that's part of how we're able to continue to keep that promise to our community, to the donors, and to the agencies that we support.
So I have a question, but I don't know if you'll take questions at the end. That's okay. I'll hold it.
No, I'm near the end. So.
Oh, okay. Go on then.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Okay.
What's your question?
So I was curious. I mean, what confused me when I first gave things for One Call for All, there were so many organizations and so many, some I was familiar with, but some kind of seemed like, well, I'll say the Pat Silva Fund or something like that. Or I mean, and I thought, well, what's that? So I just want to know, how does someone get in, and how do you
This is so fun.
decide
Pat,
that they're okay, or, you know,
guess what my next slide is?
oh,
This is to talk about our how folks get on our list or become a partner organization. So yeah, I swear I did not send her an email in advance asking her to ask that question at that exact time, but this is what is a question I get a lot. So we require very little in terms of what we ask from our partner agencies. So they are required to serve Bainbridge Island residents in some way. They are required to be and remain recognized as tax exempt with the IRS, and we allow the IRS to make that determination. So we've had an organization in the past year that didn't file their 990 for 5 years in a row, and they got booted out of as a 501c3 organization, and we had to remove them from our roll. We require that they maintain a current registration as a charity with the Washington State Secretary of State, which is actually required to raise money. But a lot of organizations have a hard time following through with that particular requirement. We require that they complete an application. One thing that's really important to us and is different from other typical kinds of organizations that give grants or give money to other nonprofits is that we do not want to be a burden at all to our agencies. We want to make it easy. We want to lift you up. We want to do as much of our job so that you can do more of your job. So we have an application, but it takes literally 5 minutes to complete. And I know because I do it on SurveyMonkey, and it actually shows me how long each person takes. It can actually take less than 5 minutes if the organization doesn't want to change their description every year that we have. So they need to complete an application. They need to raise at least $2,000 through one call for all. And that is because we don't want organizations to come on the Pat Silva Fund or whatever, imaginary organization that somebody comes up with. We give every single organization the same kind of real estate on our website and in our red envelope as every other. So you will see the Senior Center has 35 words in which to describe the importance and value of their work. You will also see that a teeny tiny organization like the Bainbridge Island Saddle Club, they've got 35 words. Helpline House has 35 words. We want to sort of maintain an equal playing field for everyone. So we don't want folks to just sit passively by. If Reed and Mimi stopped ever asking you all for money or asking you to give your gifts through One Call for All, the Senior Center would do just fine. You'd be able to raise a lot of money. You wouldn't have to put any effort in. However, some of these newer, tiny organizations would never be able to raise any money if they just sat passively by and accepted the money. So we want to make it an active partnership, and that's why we require $2,000 from 24 donors per year. And each new organization has 3 years to meet that threshold. We also ask and require that they not send a direct solicitation by mail to the entire 98110 zip code. And this is to cut down on direct mail solicitation, and is part of why One Call for All was formed in the early years. Now, not very many nonprofits would send mail to the entire 98110. You'd send a targeted mailing perhaps, but we do allow organizations to send as much mail. Every nonprofit needs to have their own way of supporting their operations budget. And some organizations, for instance, the Marge Williams Center, where I am sitting right now, their sole fundraising tool is One Call for All. And for a lot of the organizations that have no staff, this is the only way they bring in money is through One Call for All. So if you go to their website and click on donate, it's going to come straight to One Call for All. So we do all the fundraising for them, and they don't have their own, special events, etc. But most organizations need to do that. You have to have more money. You have to have some fees for service. You have to, do a major donor campaign. You might want to do a gala or a raffle or any other fundraising effort. We just require that you not send a mailing to the entire 98110 zip code. You can send a targeted mailing to your past donors, or even a targeted mailing to prospective new donors, but it can't be the entire island. And then we also require that organizations not share donor names or contact information with any other entity. And so this has only been a problem once, and it was with an organization that was actually they shared with a fiscal sponsor kind of situation, and then that fiscal sponsor started soliciting sending direct mail to the donors, and that was terribly embarrassing and not what One Call for All is about. So not a problem for the senior center, but we did just recently add that requirement.
Well, that's usually there's a story behind every rule. Marcy, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
Oh, you're muted, Marcy.
You'll need to unmute, Marcy.
Okay, finally came up. I had a question. My question was about, it says on there that they benefit Bainbridge Island, not that they are on Bainbridge. I have been a supporter of Stillwaters for many years, and I was happy to see it arrive on the One Call for All last year or the year before. It's purely Kitsap County. And one other thing that is well, I've just completely lost the name, but it's another Kitsap County one, is how do you calculate benefit to Bainbridge Island for a Kitsap County nonprofit?
We actually even have some Seattle-based organizations too. So is if services are offered, it's actually a box that's the organization checks. So this isn't something that we go in and evaluate. Again, our role is to just raise money and let donors decide whether or not they value that work. So it's just a question that we ask: do you benefit Bainbridge Island in some way, Bainbridge Islanders in some way? And so we have, for instance, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Care Center is in our, sometimes it comes from a donor who says, I want to be able to give to this organization as well. And as long as they can say, yes, well, people on Bainbridge do get cancer, and research benefits Bainbridge Islanders. And actually now Fred Hutchinson is merged with Seattle Cancer Care. So they're actually a healthcare provider for people on Bainbridge. So it's a kind of, we don't put it's a burden on the organization to determine, to say, yes, we do. I certify this. We say that at the end of every application. But it is also, not something that we want to be able to, we want to reduce the burden on the organizations. And so we don't do a ton of research about that. But we do have organizations that have joined our ranks and then have not been able to earn any support, haven't actively participated, and have left. I wanted to say one other thing is that we used to have the community fund used to be only distributed to on-island organizations. And when I came on board, I started noticing that there's some on-island organizations that don't serve the island. They only had their headquarters were here and they had a PO box here, but they didn't actually serve Bainbridge Island. They were international in scope or in some other way. And there were some organizations that were headquartered. Yeah, you send your mail to Poulsbo or Indianola or wherever they're headquartered, and yet they are actively serving our Bainbridge Islanders. And so we did away with that distinction. So all organizations, regardless of where they're headquartered, they all serve Bainbridge in some way, but they all receive shares in our community fund. I also wanted to say, for some new organizations, we actually go to them. So quite a few years ago, I learned about Kayak, the Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center, and they had no staff at that time. They had no paid executive director at that time. And I reached out to them and said, I'm hearing folks want to give to you, and I hear that you serve Bainbridge Islanders in some way. And so they came on board, and they were actually the single largest first-time organization. They earned more than any other new organization ever before, and they put forth no effort into that. It was just really, wonderfully generous Bainbridge Islanders that wanted to give. And we did the same with the ACLU. And then last year or this year, one of our new organizations is the West Sound Treatment Center that treats people with substance use disorder. And we didn't have any organization that is headquartered on Bainbridge Island or elsewhere that met that particular need. And I found it was really important. So I reached out to them once I found out about their existence. And they do serve Bainbridge Islanders, but they serve Bainbridge Islanders who head over to Poulsbo or one of their other locations.
So it's worth to sending in a recommendation or a question for a group that isn't on it yet, but could be, that is off island.
Yeah, just email me. If you are involved with an organization that you want to make sure, fills out the application, it might not be a good fit, but follow up. If it's a staffed organization, have the staff person email me. If you are a volunteer with that organization, just email me. And I think my last slide was my email address, but it's kind of easy to find my email address on the website because it's all over the place. But Tracey at onecallforall.org.
Another thing I want to make sure that we touched on before we wrapped up here was that the campaign is all year long, that you are able to support organizations that you care about. Most of our attention in philanthropy or charity tends to fall right around this time of year. And so this is when the year wraps up, but you're open for business to help all year long, right, Tracey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we raise way more money during the month of December than any other time of year. And partly that's due to tradition. It's also partly, I think, some folks have the impression it's one of the top 10 myths of One Call for All. I wrote an article in the Bainbridge Review once about that they think that it ends on December 31st, but no, we have not had a day without a donation in about 6 years. And partly that's with the recurring donations. So many of you give recurring donations, you being senior center participants and donors, and that runs year round.
Yeah. If you do like I do, try to do that at the beginning of the year, then you'll remember when it is time to renew. But
Oh, Reed, I got to tell you, I got a new system set up now. I just last month started receiving an email when someone makes their last donation. If they're doing a quarterly, when they've made their 4th donation, then I get an email. And same as monthly, when they've made their 12th donation, I get an email now. So I am reaching out to people, and it's it was complicated in the beginning because I wanted to be able to share that information with the recipient organization, but so many people give to a bunch of organizations that it's really not, there's plenty of people that just give to the senior center recurring donation
but it's not practical because you would be having to manage all those different organizations. And that idea of giving once and it going in 5 different coffers is a wonderful part of One Call for All.
I agree.
Thank you for all your work, and thank you for stopping by today. And as you said, you shared your email. So if there are any questions, just ask you in February after you've recovered from the end of the year.
Oh, you can ask me anytime. And actually, I put on my signature line is my cell phone number. And I always want to make sure, and I put it up on the screen earlier, but for senior center people, I really don't want you to call me and leave me a voicemail on my digital voicemail, which is that 842 number. I don't put my cell phone number on the website, but I definitely don't like having to play phone tag with people. I would so much rather just have you call me directly. So Sheila's already on my phone. So
no, Sheila and you have a phone relationship going. So
right, but really, literally anybody, Reed, if anybody has a question about their credit card, the recurring donations, it's just not a great process. I'm working on it. I'm trying to make it better. It's not that intuitive, but if you have any questions about you know, Marcy, your organization that you have in mind that you'd like to see added, any questions, Pat, any of you can call me anytime on my cell number. And Reed has it. And Reed, please give it out to anybody who asks, because I'd so much rather
Okay.
just talk on the phone than have to play phone tag, because the digital voicemail is just kind of dumb. And then I try to call people back on my cell phone and nobody wants to answer my phone call because it's an unknown number. And anyway, give it straight out to anybody who asks, Reed.
Well, Happy New Year. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you on New Year's Eve. So,
Okay, great. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy holidays. Really nice to meet you in person or in your face, Pat and Marcy. And nice to see you, Sheila, my friend. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Happy
for having
holidays
me.
to you and your family, my friend.
Thanks, Sheila. Bye-bye.